Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me and see my screen. Please type something into the chat or interrupt me if you can't. But thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Joel Dragan. I'm the Executive Director for FYSA. I'll sort of be leading us on this conversation tonight. This is the Insurance and Liabilities / Risk Management. Sort of a big catch-all for all the most interesting stuff that FYSA has to offer for you, but I will say a lot of the most important things. Before we start, I need to remind everybody that this session is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube after we're done. And also with this platform that we're using for GoToWebinar, you guys are all automatically muted. If you'd like to be unmuted, please use the hand raise function and I will try to get to you as soon as possible. And you can always use the chat function for your questions once we get to that portion. We've got a fairly brief presentation to go over here today. And once we get to that, we're happy to take questions. Moving to the first slide, just a brief introduction here. As I mentioned, my name is Joel Dragan. I'm the Executive Director for FYSA, and we're joined by a great team tonight, really a wealth of knowledge. So really thank you guys for being a part of this. Jennifer is on the phone, Jennifer Murphy, employee of FYSA, our program specialist. Who really specializes in risk management. Also with us tonight is John Stacy, the president of FYSA, and also our insurance agents and brokers are with us as well, really the experts in this, who you may hear correct me on some of the information. But Guy, Tammy, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Good evening, my name is Guy King, and I'm the president of M.E. Wilson, and we're an agent broker in Tampa. We have 6 locations throughout Florida, and we have been pleased to be your agent of record for the last 24 years.
That's great.
And Tammy?
My name is Tammy Marshall. I am the Director of Commercial Operations at M.E. Wilson and the account executive on the Florida Youth Soccer account.
Thank you guys both so much. From FYSA, on behalf of our membership and our staff and board, really thank you guys for taking some time out and helping us with this really important issue. So thank you, Guy, thank you, Tammy, and we'll jump right into it. Here's a brief agenda that we are going to discuss this evening. We're going to talk about FYSA's current insurance coverage that we offer to all of our members. We're going to talk a little bit about our relationship with M.E. Wilson, as well as some of the more practical things that you as an affiliate might hear from M.E. Wilson in regards to filing a claim. We'll, of course, talk about what's on top of everybody's mind, coronavirus, COVID-19 coverage amidst the pandemic, what has happened over the course of the last several months. We'll talk about our renewal, which I'm sure a lot of you are really anxious to hear about, the 2020-2021 insurance renewal. We'll provide you some updates right away that are real time. We'll talk maybe a little bit about the fee increase, which is of course a direct result of the insurance process and our insurance renewal. I'm going to touch on a rule amendment for the FYSA AGM 301.2 that hopefully a lot of you have reviewed in the documentation that's available out there. So I'd like to just point out to why that's so important as we make our way through. And then, of course, I don't do many risk management, or I don't do many webinars these days where I don't talk about our new risk management policy that has been adopted by the board of directors, and of course Q&A at the very end if anyone needs or wants to raise their hand. And again, please feel free to utilize that chat function throughout the meeting. To start, I'd like to just sort of talk broadly about the coverage that FYSA provides. There's a lot of misconception out there about things that are covered, things that aren't covered, what lapses might there be out there for clubs, for affiliates. And we want to be very transparent. We want to be very straightforward in what our insurance covers and what it doesn't. And I think the first place to start is the policy term for FYSA insurance runs August 1st through July 31st. You'll see that on a lot of the certificates of insurance that you guys have, and it's important to know that date that separates one policy term to the next. And that'll become important later as we talk about that bylaw proposal. The policy used to expire on June 1st. So keep that in the back of your mind as we go through some of these slides. The first and probably most relevant policy that FYSA provides is our participant accident policy. This is for registered players of FYSA. If there is an injury, we do have coverage that will take care of things that are above and beyond what a parent might pay out of pocket. I know Tammy's going to touch on that in a little bit more specifics, but for 99 out of 100, hopefully more interactions with FYSA regarding insurance or interactions with Emmy Wilson, it's going to be for this participant accident policy. So just know that your players are covered if they are injured in a severe way. Just know that this generally isn't for sprained ankles, cuts, stitches. These are your more severe type of injuries. Probably certainly a more expensive, but probably a more important policy that we provide is the general liability and excess liability policies for the entire state and all of our affiliates. These are the worst type of circumstances. In issues of litigation, our general liability would come through. Things that aren't players being injured on the field, other liability circumstances that you as an affiliate may find yourself in will be covered under your general liability and excess liability. Again, these are broad strokes. There's a lot of small things that might ensure that coverage is provided or might not be. But in general, these are your major claims that are the result of litigation. Of course, we also provide directors and officers insurance, often referred to as our D&O policy. I always like to highlight here with FYSA that we extend the D&O policy to our members as well. We have a D&O policy for ourselves and our board, and we also extend that to all of the FYSA members that are out there as well. The affiliate boards are also covered under this policy. I'll say that's rare. Not a lot of state associations still extend a D&O coverage to their affiliates. We didn't do it in Kansas. We didn't do it in Michigan. But we do it here. So really know that you have this coverage and know that it's another member benefit of FYSA. We get a lot of questions about what is covered and what isn't covered, and that's what these next couple bullet points are. The general rule of thumb for what is covered is it's an FYSA registered player at a sanctioned event. Let's start with registered player. That's a pretty easy concept to understand. If you put a player in Got Soccer, you added them to a roster, and you paid for that player and generated the roster to FYSA, that checks the box more or less for a registered player. Know that that is there can be some fallout in there with Got Soccer. If you didn't generate your rosters properly, if you didn't put them in Got Soccer at all, if you haven't paid your bills, your players aren't considered registered, which means they aren't considered insured. A lot of times I hear affiliates use those terms interchangeably, and they almost can be. If your players aren't registered, they're not insured. Just know that. Sanctioned events are a little bit trickier. Sanctioned events are things such as practices, games, trainings, really anything that has to do with the regular day-to-day running of a soccer club. So you don't need to worry. We don't have an individual event sanctioning process for club activities. I would say that are games, practices, trainings. There is a separate sanctioning process for tournaments. Jennifer knows all about that. I'm sure many of you on this call run tournaments. So know that that is a separate sanctioning process, but through the normal course of running a soccer club, most of your events will be considered sanctioned. Things that aren't sanctioned, we talk a lot about fundraisers. We had somebody trying to use our coverage for a 5K in a previous state that I worked for, that there was an injury that occurred. That's not a soccer related activity. It's not a soccer sanctioned activity. 5Ks are something that is excluded under the next point. So just know that as long as you are sticking to soccer related activities, you can bring individual ones to us, and we will honestly defer to Emmy Wilson in a lot of them, but absolutely your games, practices, trainings are going to be covered. Excluded activities and excluded information or excluded property is another big question that we get. In general, property is not covered under the FYSA general liability. That's damage to property. Things like the fields get vandalized, lighting, that's a big one that we get. If something happens with lighting, we don't cover, the FYSA general liability does not cover that. It's not property insurance, it is liability coverage. So the example that we were just talking about before we started this presentation is golf carts, for example. And it's an important distinction to make. FYSA does cover the liability that would potentially be out there for an incident that happened, including a golf cart. However, we do not cover the damage that would happen to a golf cart that you might own or rent. So that distinction is very important. So just know that other things that are excluded is auto and transportation. Even if it's going to an FYSA sanctioned event, that is not covered. Lastly, I like to remind our affiliates that though we don't charge a specific coach registration fee as some other USYS states do, we do provide participant accident coverage for coaches. This is a very common misconception that's out there. Yes, I will freely admit that coach injuries are few and far between. However, should something come up that a coach gets injured during a FYSA, going back to it, sanctioned event, then we would provide the same participant accident coverage to them, the same terms that would be provided to the players. I've seen it in other states, so the coverage is available, it is out there, and if you need it, we cover it for you guys. So take that back with you if nothing else. Next, I'd like to turn it over for a little bit to Guy and Tammy about Emmy Wilson, let them talk a little bit about themselves, the partnership that FYSA has with them, and a few specifics. FYSA is very proud of our longtime relationship with FYSA. So guys, take it over.
Thank you, Joel, and we're very proud of the long-term relationship too. Emmy Wilson is your broker and your agent. And so when it comes to the insurance equation, we're not the company, we're not the claim payer. We're the one that searches the market to find the best carrier and the best coverages for FYSA affiliates. So the reason we don't have the actual final results from our marketing is because we're getting down to the very last brass tacks, and we're trying to negotiate a really good deal for FYSA's affiliates. The market in Florida and in the, nationwide for youth sports, whether it be swimming, gymnastics, or soccer or football, junior football, all have taken horrible turns for claims, and the claims mostly have been what we call SAM claims, sexual abuse claims, and this has happened. Rates have gone up for that coverage in the middle of the COVID experience. The market has hardened, and then when you talk about a hard market in the insurance business, it not only means that the prices are going up, but it means that there's an availability problem. There's not that many carriers that want to play anymore in this particular segment. And you know, with the Boy Scouts, the Catholic Church, the USA Swimming, and I'm sure some of you have seen that documentary on the gymnastics trainer. That has all really heightened all the awareness for the underwriter, where they're not that interested in what it is that we need coverage for. So there's a few players out there, and we've talked to dozens of insurance companies trying to find the best match. So that's what's why it's so challenging. Tammy and I are used to being heroes. We brought in, you know, great pricing back when we first got this account. You know, FYSA was paying like $5.55 per player for all their insurance, and you know, we've been able to keep it in the 4s and 5s and 6s over 24 years. Now that's, as you know, the cost of medical care has gone up dramatically, what, 1,000% since then, and we've been through all kind of national health challenges. But so the thing about the cost of your insurance is determined by your claims. And for years, it was easy to be a hero because the claims just weren't that bad. We had a couple of spikes, but in this past year, we really had things happen that we hadn't had happen before. And that's what's caused all the challenge. But the best way to manage your claims is to have risk management. And that's what FYSA and your executive director and the board have done, is come up with the very best risk management available. And I approve completely of the systems you're using. The Presidium group is the ones that all the big YMCAs in this country use, and the YMCAs have had excellent results. And I know that we're going to too. But there's kind of a period of where you have to get up to speed with all these risk management tools. So we just ask everybody for your understanding and your compliance, so that we can get this to be a safer organization, and that we always remember the #1 rule, and that's protect the player.
I couldn't agree more, Guy. And I think the membership has heard that echoed, and it's been affirmed by the board. We're really proud of the strides that we've made here. I'll forward a slide here to, I believe, you, Tammy.
Okay. So many of you are asked quite often when a player is injured, what do we do? You know, as a parent, they come to you, what do we do? And so I wanted to talk about that a little. You should always direct them to the FYSA website. On the website, there's a form that they will need to complete. They can print the form, they can email it to Emmy Wilson, they can fax it to Emmy Wilson, but the form will be completed. And after that form comes back to us, then we have a process that we go through. FYSA has to sign off on the form. They check and make sure that the player is a registered player, and that's very important. And after they approve and confirm that the player is registered, the form comes back to us and we send to the insurance carrier for processing. The entire process probably takes about 2 weeks from start to finish. So sometimes the parents don't understand that part of it. Also, when talking about the coverage itself, it's important to note that there's a $2,000 deductible, and the PA coverage is excess, meaning the participant's family insurance is going to cover the claim. Then what they don't cover, because most of us nowadays have large deductible plans, so what they don't cover can be submitted to your PA carrier. And there is a $2,000 deductible on that. After that, the carrier pays 80% up to a maximum of $50,000. And there is also coverage for accidental death and dismemberment of $10,000. So a lot of the phone calls, a lot of the things that we handle at Emmy Wilson have to do with the PA coverage, because there's just a real lack of understanding with the parents on how this works. And I think that goes down to the coaches as well in the clubs. So we may want to consider in the future educating the clubs a little more on the PA and how it works and the claims process in general.
But we want to be called. We want the parents, the family, mom and dad to call us when they have questions, and we'll be glad to coach them through this. As part of our service is to help coach them through this. So please call Emmy Wilson Company. Don't call FYSA with those kind of questions, and because we've got the answers.
Yeah, that's such a great service that all FYSA affiliates get out of Emmy Wilson. The fact that you're able to talk directly with not just the experts on it, but somebody who can actually do something and can help you out with it. So many other states that I've seen, this is simply just a matter of email this individual. To be able to get them on the phone is really nice, and they're so knowledgeable about the program. From our perspective, a lot of times once we approve it, we're not involved in it, the process at all. So it's really nice to have a partner like Emmy Wilson who can really take the reins on these claims, because with a state of over 100,000 individuals, I can tell you, as somebody who sees all the claims, there's a lot of them, which I'm sure Tammy can attest to as well.
There are a lot of claims, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Amber Richards, who in our office is the first person that the parents have contact with regarding the PA claims. So she handles a lot and talks to a lot of parents and handles every single claim that comes in for FYSA.
Fantastic. Yeah, to have somebody dedicated is so big. Tammy, real quickly, can you mention what if there's not, I just got the question text me, if the parents don't have primary health insurance on the child?
Sure. Then the excess drops down. So if there is no coverage for the child, the excess is the coverage, and still the $2,000 deductible applies, and then it pays 80/20.
I think that's a fantastic, another benefit that a lot of people don't realize on the insurance end, and hopefully will keep people participating versus not being able to participate because they may not have insurance coverage. That can be a major help. I mean, $50,000 in medical will go a long way. If we're talking again about catastrophic, not necessarily catastrophic, but major injuries.
Right, and we see a lot of those. We see a lot of torn ACLs. That's probably the biggest one that we see, actually.
I'm going to check the questions right here. Futsal training and play to Bill Fisher. Yes, that is covered. That would be considered a sanctioned event. What happens with players who may come for an evaluation on 2 to 3 sessions as they are not registered in GOT Soccer? Then that does not mean a covered, and a club has to find the stopgap insurance. I might turn that over to John. Him and I have had some conversation on that matter. I think this sounds like tryouts. Tryouts are specifically covered events. We will extend it to tryouts, but 2 to 3 sessions sounds like it might get a little a little dicey as far as if we can consider that tryouts. John, do you care to weigh in there? Oh, John might be muted. We'll have to look at it individually from you, Tammy. Tryouts are specifically covered per the FYSA bylaws, so I think I'd need a little bit more understanding of what a session is. And as we recently communicated to our members, the coverage does truly follow the player. So if they were registered anywhere else, so it's going to depend on the time of year, the coverage will exist. So there's a lot that goes into a question like that, and truly there are some gaps, but I feel that they are incredibly minimal. Wanted to get the questions out. Moving on to the next slide, I want to touch really briefly on coronavirus and COVID-19 coverage. Just letting everybody know where we were with this. March 18th, FYSA ended all sanctioning of events. It went from March 18th to May 25th. I still can't believe it. It was an incredibly tough decision that the FYSA board of directors and staff collaborated on. It was the right thing to do for the safety of the children. I never thought we'd go through something like that, but from an insurance standpoint, coverage did not apply during that time. We weren't sanctioning any events. There was no FYSA sanctioned events to cover during that time. So just know there won't be any claims to come out of that specific period, March 18th through May 25th. The 2019-2020 policy that is expiring, there is no communicable disease exclusion. We've mentioned this before, basically meaning in a more positive voice, we do have coverage for communicable diseases liability coverage. That's ending in just a couple weeks on August 1st. What it doesn't cover is the PA does not kick in, the participant accident. It doesn't cover medical related expenses if somebody were to attain or catch the coronavirus or COVID-19. There is no coverage for that. The expected 2020-2021 policy we're being told by every reputable account, it will have an exclusion for communicable diseases. I don't think that that type of coverage is going to exist in this realm at all, not just FYSA, but sort of across the board. So again, the PA coverage will of course still not cover COVID-19 and coronavirus. What FYSA has done to assist our affiliates in this is that we've vetted and created a hold harmless or a waiver for communicable diseases. It's not specific to coronavirus. However, this is available on our website. It is out there for all of you guys to have. There's a Word document out there if you'd like to add your own touch to it. If you'd like to add your club specifically, please feel free to do that. It's available on the risk management page of the FYSA website. The board has taken it a step further and has required this form to be signed by all participants starting on August 1st. So going forward, this will be required of all of you. I get a lot of questions from people about what the checks and balances are in this. Just know that it's in your absolute best interest to have this form signed by both the athlete and more importantly, the guardian for that athlete. The logistical aspect of trying to collect 100,000 forms for a state our size is just not doable. So we are putting that on you guys as affiliates. Make sure you get it signed. You can rebuild the form digitally. It is a requirement, and yeah, that's really all I've got to say on it. Make sure you get it signed. Going forward, as we start to get back on the field, it is of the utmost importance. Talking about our renewal, I will breeze through this pretty quickly. Guy touched on a lot of this, and a lot of this should be review for many of you because it does coincide with the fee increase, which I'll also touch on. FYSA several months ago was advised to plan for a 100% premium increase, really due to more than anything our claims experience and the claims that have come through on our general liability over the course of the last 3 to 4 years, mostly. Most up-to-date information. It's a very fluid situation. We have a proposal. We're hoping to have something signed by the end of this week to bind coverage. Emmy Wilson has been working absolute overtime for us on this, and we thank them. We've gone from meeting probably once every couple weeks to once a week to 3 times a week as it gets closer to the expiration. But just know that things are changing day to day, if not hour to hour, as we're getting information from carriers that are out there. As Guy mentioned, the market hardening. It's difficult to obtain this type of coverage right now, and it's not just for FYSA. I do want to make it very clear. I got this from a affiliate earlier this week. Are we renewing our policies? Let me make it incredibly clear that FYSA will be providing insurance coverage to the affiliates starting on August 1st. You do not need to worry about that. I want to make that 100% clear. You can anticipate some change, particularly just in the SAM coverage, which Guy mentioned is sexual abuse and molestation. There will be, this is only on the liability side, of course. You can probably expect some limitations because of our previous claims history. It's going to make it difficult to obtain the exact same type of coverage that we had previously. And again, this isn't unique to FYSA. This is an epidemic, if you will. There's been a major spotlight shined on sexual abuse and molestation. So a lot of states, fellow states that I talk to, are getting limitations. We are not the only one in this situation right now. Concussion coverage, we're not really sure if it will change. I like to speak on the concussion problems that FYSA and soccer had 3-4 years ago are now the issues that we're having on SAM. That this is the new latest and greatest thing that is being hit on the general liability policies, our SAM. So we're not exactly certain of what our concussion coverage will be. It'll obviously still be there. We will definitely have SAM coverage. No chance that we're losing it. It just may be a less maximum payout.
And
Joel,
Joel, this guy, and that concussion issue a few years ago was a really big deal. We were worried we were going to lose concussion coverage, and your board applied risk management, and that's what lowered the claims. Therefore, it's not that big a problem anymore. It's still got some challenges, but it shows you that risk management works.
Exactly. And we did have a limit on the payout for concussion liability claims previously, so that we're not expecting much, if any, change there. We understand, we hear you, Jennifer, more than anybody, I'm sure hears you, that we understand this is closer to the expiration than normal years. We don't expect it to be this close to the expiration in previous years. This comes from an abundance of trying to obtain the best coverage at the best rates. And as Guy talked about the markets that are out there, it's changing. We had a quote in front of us a couple of weeks ago that we could have signed. The premium was incredibly high, and the coverage wasn't all that good. So we've taken some extra steps here. We understand certificates are expiring soon, and that on behalf of Tammy and Jennifer, they could speak to it more than we will. Once we bind coverage this week, it will be the absolute top priority to get affiliates the certificates of insurance. Jennifer, do you want to speak to COIs real quick? I know you're getting a lot of requests for them.
Just mimicking what you said, we're going to do it as quickly as we can. I've talked to several of the affiliates to let them know that Tammy and I have discussed this at great length, and we may enact a different procedure this year that would get the COIs out probably within, about 2 to 4 days, or not 4 days, 1 to 2 days, Tammy?
Yes, absolutely.
So that is our priority. As soon as we get this coverage bound, that's exactly the first thing that we're going to be working on.
And we appreciate the affiliates' patience on that. We really do.
Yeah, we do.
Again, to step back a little bit, this renewal process, this isn't something that we've been looking at for the last couple of weeks or even the last month. I put a 4-month process on here. In speaking with Guy yesterday, it sounds like they've been working on it for certainly much longer than that. They called it more like a 6-month process. So there's just been a ton that's gone into it. We've been in contact with dozens and dozens of carriers. Before I move on, Guy, Tammy, what else can you add from your perspective on what the renewal process has been like?
Well, the one part about it is that we're used to people responding in a timely fashion with us. We're underwriters from the different carriers would get back to us sooner. And with the COVID challenges and the workload on the limited number of people that are in the underwriting offices, they haven't been able to respond to us in a timely manner. And so that's what's really that and the whole market being shaken by the claims throughout the country. So, like I said, we apologize that we're not getting out certificate of insurance, but we may get a deal tomorrow that could save a lot of money that would have broader coverage. And so I've asked Joel and his team if it's okay if we can just keep negotiating. And we expect there's 2 more offers that might be coming the next couple of days. And so they keep saying they are, we keep saying, where is it? And hopefully if they come through, then we'll be able to relieve some of the pain that's been inflicted on our insurance.
Yeah, it really comes from a place for trying to do the best that we absolutely can for you guys on the membership. The biggest thing that you guys pay from us is insurance, and we want to ensure that we're giving you the most coverage for the best rates. So moving on from this, obviously where all of this came from, right? How did we find ourselves in the position that we are? Guy mentioned it earlier. It truly is our claims experience. We had an incredibly rough 18-19 year, and we're paying for it a bit right now. It's not one club, as our president John has mentioned previously in regional AGMs, as well as I think on some of the broadcast board meetings. It's not one club, it's not one incident, it's everybody. We're getting a lot of questions that I'm going to address right up front is, why can't we make the clubs who are offending pay more? Why can't they pay more in registration fees? Well, the difficult thing to do on that is you can't really quantify how much one claim costs in a renewal. It doesn't work like that. It's all of FYSA's book of business that comes together. And personally, I think it opens up this can of worms of, we've never used the insurance. We want to pay less. If somebody's got to pay more, we want to pay less than what the average even is. And it's absolutely impossible for us to determine how much premium went to one claim. And again, this isn't one club who had a claim that has increased our rates. It's multiple clubs, it's multiple incidents. It's not all SAM coverage. There's concussion problems that had been out there previously as well. They're looking back not just on last year, not just on the year before. And Guy, correct me if I'm wrong, it goes back, they want the claims history 10 years, 7 years?
Well, actively are used in 5 years. Okay. But and we've got things where, during tryout, one player saw a player he didn't like and he blindsided him with a punch during the tryouts, things like that. Well, those could get really, I think that's going to be end up being $75,000. So they can, it's not just that. And on your other issue, we can't treat the clubs that have a couple of claims right now punitively, because it might be your club next year. And the way I'm looking at it is which one of the clubs have embraced our risk management and have embraced and are now compliant. Because I think all the ones that have had some problems can see now what can happen to their club and the danger it can put the future of their club in. So I think everybody is adhering to the new rules, and that's going to make all the difference in the world. But we have to pull together.
Yes. That's exactly, and it leads to the next point here, is what are we doing different? And a big thing that we are doing different, as guys touched on, is our risk management program. It's ensuring compliance of the safe sport training, which all of you have in place. In order to get on a roster as a coach, you need to do it. We've instituted a new background check that is much, much more thorough than our previous background check. We have the abuse tip line that's out there. If anything needs to be said, people can stay anonymous. I'll get to that in a few, but we are taking our partnership with Presidium. I almost forgot about that. We are taking this very serious from a staff perspective to a board perspective. The first thing on the top of our mind, and Jennifer, credit to her, is incredible at this, is what does this mean for risk management? What does this mean for liability? What does this mean big picture wise? Because ultimately where this goes, and on my next slide, is to the fees and the fee increase. Unfortunately, we've had to pass along $3 per rec player and $4 per competitive player, which is directly related back to the increase in insurance as well as our claims history. I always like to mention here the $40 per applicant for our background check. That has not changed at all. So there's no increase for the coaches. We just talked a lot about the why. The SAM coverage. Not only has the SAM claims have there been several of them, but they've been very costly in order to pay out. I think Guy made the point very clear about changes in the insurance market. And one thing that we continue to hear from clients or from carriers is just about the general legal climate here in the state of Florida, and how at times, many times, it's easy to get cases in front of judges. So that hurts us, and that's something that we really have no control over. We've heard from one carrier who has basically just said, we're trying to get out of the Florida market, period. So where this is going is your fee increase for FYSA. That's directly where the dollars are going. I'll breeze through 301.2 here because I want to get to some questions at the end, but just know these are our fixed costs for FYSA. The U.S. Soccer Federation collects $1 per player, U.S. Youth Soccer $2.25 per player, and then of course our insurance premiums are referenced in Rule 301.2, which talk about fixed costs. Here were some actual numbers, as Guy talked about previously. You know, we were paying these per player fees as low as $4.21 just a few years ago. That was the year that we had a lot of SAM claims come in. 1920, you can see it went up quite a bit, $2 and some change. This was an estimated figure for 2020, 2021 for our presentation on the fee increase. That's not firm yet. We should have that number soon. We're hoping it's less than that. It could be more. So the premium increase for 2019 was $333,000. I'd like everybody to know that we did not pass any of that along in the fee increase last year. All that we passed along last year to the membership was $1. And that wasn't even all of what U.S. Youth Soccer passed along in 2019. which was $1.25. I guess what I'm trying to tell you guys is, and this came out in one of the regional AGMs recently, the fee increase that I mentioned on the last page for this year, $3 and $4, only recovers this amount, the $333,000 plus the $1.25 per player. FYSA is gambling. We're banking on you guys as affiliates to not to embrace risk management, to take this kind of stuff serious. And so in turn, we will not have the same coverage or the same claims that we had previous years, and we won't see giant increases like these. Somebody asked me point blank, will there be another fee increase next year? Not committing one way or another to that. There's too many variables to look at between now and then. So we are absorbing a lot of this coverage despite what we are passing along to you guys. And again, the anticipated, these are numbers that we don't have in stone just yet. Finally, and then I'm going to turn it over to some questions. I want to talk about 301.2. This is a bylaw amendment for this year at the AGM. It will be voted on at the virtual AGM August 9th. This is the proposed rule that hamstrung us a bit this year. The board of directors have to set the annual fee no later than May 1st of each year. Going back to the very beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that our policies used to expire on June 1st. So this gave us a month to communicate that information to the membership. So now, since we've moved our expiration to August 1st, May 1st is just far too early. We didn't know what those fees were when we passed along the $3 and the $4 fee increase to you guys. We will have a much better idea if the membership will support this highlighted section right here, that we will communicate it to you guys within 10 business days, and but no later than July 10th. We're confident that this will be the latest we ever have to talk about a renewal. So just know that this will be out there this year, and that frankly, I stay out of the political realm on all of this, but I would say to please support this. It would help estimate our fees more accurately toward you guys. I have a lot of stuff on the risk management policy. I know many of you have heard this information on our town hall calls. Know that it was adopted on May 30th of 2020. The board put this in place. I'm not going to dive into the details of it. Just know a lot of it we were obligated to already comply with. This is a formalization of a lot of things that we were already obligated to comply with. So a lot of it is new, but it really does do a deep dive on what is allowed and what isn't allowed under safe sport. And it's a much more digestible document than if you're trying to interpret the safe sport law or the safe sport map policies. This puts it out in, frankly, a lot more plain English. And these are a lot of the specifics that when Guy talks about embracing risk management, doing the right things, there's policies on all of this in there. All of these items are addressed in the policy. So I'd really encourage you guys to go over and read this policy. We're putting it on you. We're gambling again on you guys that you're going to take these matters serious. You're going to keep the kids safe. We're going to do the best we can from the top down, and we're going to provide the avenues to report, which I touch on in this next one right here. This is the suspected abuse tip line. This is managed by Presidium. I give this phone number out absolutely as much as I can, 866-607-7233. It's available 24 hours a day. A major deficiency that we felt that we had in our risk management offerings was an avenue to report. This is being put out to not just affiliate members like yourselves, but it will also go to players and parents. If they see anything out there, they can report to this as well. So The tip line's active, it's out there, we'll receive reports from it. I would just tell you guys that it does not satisfy your requirement under Safe Sport for reporting to the proper authorities. You should call this tip line and also the proper authorities if this rises to confirmed abuse. This might be a nice middle field, middle of the ground kind of thing. If you're not quite sure what to do, if you want to stay anonymous, we will get the tips that go through there. And don't worry, we are mandatory reporters as well. So when we get tips, we also report them to the proper authorities. From there,
Joel, can I interject?
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to also say to all the affiliates, really take this seriously. And even though we have this all posted on our websites and we've emailed it to you as a club, I would encourage you to hold meetings with your staff and your coaches and go over these policies and really encourage them to follow the policies. While I understand they can seem limiting and they can seem a little overwhelming, it's very important. And we can provide the information to you as an affiliate, but then it's up to you to take that next step and make sure that everybody is aware of these policies and everybody understands what is expected of them.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'll put it even out there. If you're from a club who's really struggling with this and you would like either this presentation or you would like to arrange a call of this nature with your coaches, with your managers, with your parents, myself or Jennifer are willing to relay this information to you. That's how important this is. We have made a commitment to keeping kids safe in this state, and we need your help to do it.
And it's important to understand that this policy also protects the adults that are the coaches, the administrative, the parents even. Because, you know, in the past, back when a long time ago, when I was a young man, there's a lot of things. We had a lot of drill instructor type coaches, and they would yell at us all the time. And you can't do that anymore. And so it's not just sexual molestation. It's all kinds of hazing. Hazing is one of our big challenges. And hazing used to be something that everybody kind of a rite of passage. Well, no, it's not. And any kind of thing that could be perceived as bullying. So we want the adults to all know about this risk management system so that it can protect them, because they may not realize that they might be doing something that could be on the edge of misconduct.
Exactly. Thank you, Guy. This list that I put out here of things the policy touches on is really just a few points. There's a lot more to it that's out there. Things as small as proper goal celebrations, right? I mean, that might seem really minor, but there are some guidelines for that even in there, all the way up to prohibitive conduct like the child sexual abuse and harassment thing. To Guy's point, hazing is in here, bullying is in here, emotional misconduct. I mean, this touches on absolutely everything. Even concussions is in there as well. So thank you for that point. And with that, I would love to open it up to questions. I apologize. I intended to leave more than 5 minutes for questions, but no, you can always reach out to me. I type them in the chat box. If anybody has their hand raised, I don't believe they do, I will unmute your microphone there. And I got one question here via text, and I think it's about the PA claims process. Please say again when and how our insurance per injury will kick in. The family insurance, including the deductible, spends $2,000, then ours kicks in, question mark. Tammy, I think what the question here is, you know, what does paying out the $2,000 in the deductible look like?
Well, so a $2,000 deductible has to be met. I'm not sure I understand exactly what they're asking.
Will the $2,000 come out of bills that they pay to their to the hospitals?
You mean,
will it? come out, or will they pay you guys directly or the insurance carriers directly?
So yes. So 2,000 could have been accumulated by paying on their deductible. They can show that they've paid 2,000 out of pocket, then the insurance kicks in. And it's meant to be more of a reimbursement type coverage. You know,
Okay.
if they do have bills, they can submit to the carrier. But sometimes when you get to that point, you're not even sure at that point. We find this a lot. They're not sure if there's even excess coverage out there. They find out about the PA coverage after the fact, sort of thing, when they've maybe found out that they have a large deductible and can't afford to make the payment. And then they go back to the club and ask, and then they find out, well, there's PA insurance.
Right.
So it can
Yeah.
go either way. They'll reimburse the medical provider, or they can reimburse the parent.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's exactly what they were after there. Yeah, guys, on this call, if you take nothing away, know that this type of coverage is out there for players and coaches, and let it be known. I mean, we pay for this coverage for a reason, and we want you guys to use it. This is one of the biggest benefits that we provide. Another question here on copays. Are those excluded from coverage on PA?
Are
No.
copays excluded? So you're saying if they maybe owe still 20%, can they turn it in then to the PA carrier? Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
right. Yes.
That gets, I know with our own health insurance, sometimes the copays don't go toward the deductible, or they're not covered. And with this being PA, I thought it was important. Thank you to Ed who submitted that. We've got a few more minutes here for some questions. Anyone who wants to raise their hand, and if not, I would throw it to the panel here for any closing remarks. We'll give it just a minute. Yeah, that's all that I've got to present. Guy, anything in closing?
Yeah, one thing is that this is not an adversarial relationship we have with the insurance carrier. We do want to make sure that we get our what we bought, and that's why we have so many people here to help and coach the families and parents through all this. But you know, we're not trying to not pay the claims. We're trying to pay them, and that's what we've been doing for a long time. And any complaint, you know, Tammy or I will be willing to talk to any parent that doesn't seem to be able to get satisfied with our regular process. Because our goal is to make everybody happy. We want this insurance to pay just like it would pay for our own family.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Guy. John, do you want to add anything in closing if you've come off mute? Anything we've missed?
No, Joel, I think you've touched on everything. I appreciate you, Jennifer, Guy, for being on here tonight, and Tammy. This risk management is the key really to keeping FYSA going forward. We desperately need the assistance of all of our clubs to implement the new risk management policies that we've put in place, to embrace the Presidium process that will start with FYSA, and we'll touch on our members. We're all in this together, and we have to do everything we can to keep the bad actors out of youth soccer and out of youth sports in general. I think it's our number one priority to make sure that our kids can play the game both safely on the field, and then when they're away from the field related to soccer, that they're not exposed to these risks that certainly can be managed. So thank you guys for putting in the time tonight to share with our membership.
Well said, John. On that note, we'll end the recording here, and thank you guys for all being a part of this. And always, please feel free to reach out to us. Guy, Tammy, Jennifer, John, thank you guys for being here.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.